Hello, everyone, and I hope you're all well. My name is Tanner Dagenais, and I'm the host of Self-Sabotage Solutions. On this podcast, it's my opportunity and my pleasure to be able to share everything I know about self-sabotage and also to be able to share other people's self-sabotage stories, because it's so important that we know that no matter where we are, who we, where we come from and what we've experienced in our life, we're all able to overcome self-sabotage. And today I'm very excited because we have a great, amazing, inspirational man, Steve Toth, here on the line. In his own words, he's a man without titles, but he is a great health facilitator. And he's actually one of my business partners with an organic superfood supplying company, Purium. And yeah, I'm really excited to hear his story because, it's just hearing what I've seen like on Facebook, it's just so interesting. And just seeing his transformation from where he's come from, from like the army and or with the military and coming on to like where he is now. It's just I was blown away to see like the difference in where he's come from. So Steve, if you can just introduce yourself a little bit and go into your story after that.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on here. This is awesome. This is like my first podcast, and I'm honored. This is good. Awesome. Yeah, I've got a lot of stories to tell. I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum here, but grew up, born in 1967. Moved around a lot growing up. Had my parents got divorced when I was 2, and my mother married an alcoholic, wife-beating musician that moved us out to the middle of Nebraska, way far away from our family. And that was interesting. I basically grew up like so many people from my generation, which is Generation X. We were called latchkey kids because we had the key to the house on a little necklace, and because the parents were usually out doing their thing. And my mother, at a young age, I was not required to be home until like 10 o'clock at night because she wanted the old man to be passed out, done beating her, so I didn't have to see all that. So I was allowed to go out and do basically whatever I wanted to do. And boy, I got into a lot of stuff. Not so much trouble. I wasn't a troublemaker, but I was always out exploring. I always ended up hanging out with older dudes, older classmates. And I think I was kind of ahead of my age. I don't think this is my first time here. I was told at a young age that I was very intuitive, and I chose to ignore a lot of that kind of talk. But this trend continued in the rest of my life. I grew up pretty much hands off from authority, and when my father did try to come back into my life, I was already like 13 or 14 years old, and at that point had lived the life of a 30-year-old, and I just wasn't feeling it. So me and my father have been in and out of a relationship since then. This time I haven't talked to him since 2006, something like that. And that stuff I got to work on too. I had to create some serious boundaries there, but I just did a video the other day about cutting people off. That's not always, that's very extreme, and that pendulum swing, So basically I grew up, rejected a lot of authority, oddly enough, ended up in the military. I was looking for some adventure. I couldn't find a job. I graduated in 1985, and the economy was shit. And a friend of mine joined the army, and I decided to go see a recruiter. I wanted to go into the Air Force because I saw a picture of a guy wearing a beret, carrying a machine gun, guarding the space shuttle. And I was like, whoa. I mean, back then the space shuttle was like, that was it, it was very cool. So the Air Force guy wasn't there, but the Army recruiter was. So he comes, he says, I'm going to show you back then there were these big laser discs. videos. They had videos on, they look like record albums. He puts this thing in, and it was a special forces recruitment video. And these guys, man, they're jumping out of planes, they're blowing shit up, they're speaking different languages, just like, you know, Superman. I'm like, okay, I'm digging this, you know, because I, you know, subconsciously I had missing that father figure in my life, and I was always looking for, without even knowing about it, somebody to guide me. And that kind of worked out, and it kind of didn't. Back then you couldn't go directly into the special forces like you can now. You had to do either time in the airborne, in the 82nd Airborne as an infantryman, or you had to join a Ranger battalion, kind of a pre-qualification. And you basically had to do a 4-year stint, and then you could go try out for special forces. There was no guarantees there either. I mean, you could be a stud, but if they didn't like you, you weren't getting in. So what happened to me is I went in the 82nd Airborne, stationed at Fort Bragg. I did 4 years there, and it was intense. And I ended up with 2 combat tours. I served in the invasion of Panama and then the first Gulf War. And at that point, I decided that this was just a little bit too much. And the training, we actually lost more soldiers in the training than we did in both combat tours. So our training was worse than our deployments as far as the level of intensity and how often we did it. So I just did not have the intestinal fortitude to continue on with that kind of a lifestyle. I was more interested in my off time, which when we did get off time, we normally had a 3 or a 4 day weekend because of our workload. They wanted to give us some time off. And all of that was spent drinking and frequenting the local strip clubs, which are abundant around military bases, especially like Fort Bragg. So it was all about strippers and drinking lots of beer. He couldn't do drugs because you had to take urinalysis tests, but drinking was almost encouraged. And I met some professional alcoholics and really learned how to turn up the volume and become one of those. So I didn't get that father figure I was looking for. I ended up getting a lot of what I already had. And that was a lot of role models, male figures in my life that were alcoholics and drug addicts. So that's what I became. I got out, and my life continued this cycle where I did the military, and then I got out and grew my hair out, and I became a roadie for a heavy metal band that's actually still around. The name of the band is called Mushroom Head. And so what's funny is, like, I used to sit in the barracks and watch Headbangers Ball, and I would just, fantasize over these heavy metal bands. I'm like, this, the music's aggressive, and I was young and aggressive, and it matched my frequency. 2 years later, I'm literally standing on stage with some of these people that I was watching on Headbangers Ball, because we opened up for all kinds of bands, Guar, Pantera, you name it. So here I am, like, all of a sudden I'm, with these people. So that's even more stories: drugs, cocaine, psychedelics, lots of drinking. And all of that was paid for by the band, wow, including free cigarettes. And I got paid, like $50 a night or whatever, which was decent money, I guess. So you can see this cycle continues. I was always searching for that higher high, that buzz to take away that pain of not being who I really was. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea that anybody should care who they are. it's all about the party and the girls. And, you know, I continued to do this. So then after I had a 10-year break in service, I cut my hair and I went back in. And this repeated a couple of times. I ended up getting medically retired while I was working for the National Guard here in Ohio. I was a full-time instructor. We had a lot of soldiers deploying for the War on Terror. So I think I ended up training about 13,000 soldiers over 5 years. The finer arts of machine gunning and hand-to-hand combat and explosives and first aid, all the basic soldiering skills. I had to be well versed in, and I had a lot of experience in all that stuff, so it worked out great. Once again, lots more drinking, and it had eventually caught up to me. I was smoking a pack and a half a day. I was drinking about 8 to 12 beers a day, and I started to steal my wife's opioid pills that she has. My wife has a rod in her back, a metal rod, and occasionally she gets into some hardcore pain. And she's always had a jar of very powerful, I can't even remember what they were. I didn't give a shit. All I knew is that they got you real high. And that caused a lot of trouble in my marriage. When my wife found out that I was stealing her pain medication, that, you know, if she had run out, if I had taken all that, she couldn't, it created a problem with her trying to explain to her doctor why she was going through so many of these fucking pills. Right. You can see where this starts to, like, and I was newly married. I didn't get married. We didn't get married until, you know, I was like 42 years old or whatever. Both of us, first time marriage. I didn't know what marriage was. I thought, like, I got a full-time girlfriend now. I didn't understand all these dynamics about relationships and being a husband and a father or stepfather. I inherited a 13-year-old young man. And so I had no idea what I was doing. So about 2016, I was waiting for all my disability and all that stuff to kick in. And I had a real hard time trying to find any work. I was a wreck. I had a hard time getting up. You can imagine being hungover, waking up every day, hungover from 8 to 12 beers, smoked the cigarettes, very dehydrated, and then being on opioids. Like, you know, that there's not a lot of jobs out there that I could do at that point. Yeah. So there came a point in 2015 or 16 that I saw where this was going. And I was standing at that abyss. And I wasn't really suicidal, but I didn't want to be here, Tanner. I didn't want to be here anymore, you know? But I enjoyed it enough. I had a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. Right. I was starting to pay for that heavily. So I decided, let me go 180 degrees of this lifestyle and see what's out there. And once you make that decision, you start to attract those things into your life. And the first person that I ran into was a surfer named Laird Hamilton on the internet. He was doing some crazy stuff. He lives in Hawaii, and he was doing this crazy stuff with this guy Wim Hof and these ice baths and doing these breathing exercises. So I started doing some of that. And I had some incredible, very psychedelic type trips while I was doing the Wim Hof breath course. He's got a couple of courses you can take. So that was my first introduction into something that got me out of here and into the body. Once I got out of here and into the body, I had these incredible experiences, very spiritual, very deep. I understood how everything's connected, and that the actions that I'm taking and the thoughts that I have are manifesting themselves pretty quickly in front of me. So that was the beginning of my journey. I became a vegetarian for 18 months. That helped get me cleaned up because I was only doing organic. I didn't eat anything that wasn't organic.
Awesome.
So that helped detoxify from, I know I posted before on my social media about there was one 48-hour period in 2004 that I received 14 vaccinations for a deployment.
Wow.
And so that, again, I had multiple deployments. I had dozens and dozens and dozens of vaccinations over my life, and all the alcohol and the drugs. I was able to get all that out of my system. I quit smoking after 35 years. I did cold turkey.
Wow.
I literally just threw them away, and that was it. And I didn't even have a single urge to smoke again. I quit drinking for a long time, and there are times even to this day I'll have an occasional hiccup, and that'll be a couple of beers, like you got your new craft beers, you know, and I'll have like two, and I'll experience a hangover that's the equivalent of a 12-pack from back in the day, and I'm like, I keep telling myself, like, okay, that's it. And those have gotten further and further and further apart as I continue down this road of self-discovery and self-realization. At alcohol, you know, Jason talks about it, you know, it's evil spirits, right? They call it spirits. And it's almost like I have to remind myself about that. It's very evil stuff. So that's something I'm still working on. But my life today, you know, let me back up a little bit. I got into long distance hiking. I'd always wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail. In 2016, I did 1,000 miles of that trail from the beginning at Springer Mountain in Georgia all the way to Harpers Ferry, Virginia. And years later, I read a book called The Philosophy of Walking. I believe Frederick Gross is the author, and it's a book that has Jean-Jacques Rousseau's in there, Friedrich Nietzsche, Henry David Thoreau, all these philosophers / walkers / nature guys, and how taking a long distance hike of some time, like a few days or more, really brings to the forefront what's essential. Because I didn't want to carry a lot of weight. I carried a lot of weight in the Army, and I did not like that. I'm not a big dude. So I went to the ultralight hiking route, very minimalist. And I gained a sense of what was really essential in life through that style of hiking. You know, I'm going out with like 18 pounds, whereas most people are double that. And, you know, I'd get some looks like, you know, that's not safe. I'm like, well, you know, I've got this figured out. And that really helped me. The long distance hiking, getting back out to nature, getting back into the body and out of the head. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go out on this hike and I'm going to get some things sorted out in my head. And that literally did not happen. But what did happen was I learned a lot about what I really needed in life. And you know, it's heat, shelter, clothing, water, you know, fire, and then down the road there, food, but just these very essential things. Love. Out there on the trail, you run into a lot of different kinds of people, from doctors and lawyers to abused housewives, people out on vision quests. the rite of passage. So much of that is missing from our lives, especially in our Western society. Like rites of passage almost don't exist. That's very tribal stuff. So I was able to connect with people. And as a veteran that had been labeled with post-traumatic stress disorder, this is why I don't like labels. That came with a lot of baggage. And I felt like I had to live that label. I had to become that role, even worse than I was already. I bought into the whole thing. And then they prescribed me medication that was like really removed me from, I didn't feel like I was a human being. So that route doesn't work. Yeah, that was a miserable failure. So the hiking helped me out tremendously, and changing the diet was the key to that whole thing. The foundation of my change was definitely diet and changing the food that I put in me, because food is consciousness.
Yeah.
And if you're eating dead food out of the center of the supermarket, that's kind of the life that you're going to live. Those are the building blocks for the body.
Exactly.
Because the body it'll build out of whatever you put in it. It's highly intelligent. And so once I changed the food I put in my body, the light bulb started to go off, the antenna went up, and man, did things start to really change. So a couple of years later, this is about 2017 or 18, I ran into Troy, the certified health nut, Troy Casey.
Yeah.
And I took one look at this dude. And at the time, he was a wild man. He had long hair and a beard. And he's like, he's, natural physique of a jungle warrior, of a not a bodybuilder, just natural man. And I took one look at this dude and I'm like, okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing here. This guy was on fire. I mean, his energy. You've been on some of the calls with him, and he helped me out tremendously. His mentor, Paul Check, became my mentor. And what's funny is Paul Check served in the 82nd Airborne the same time I was stationed at Fort Bragg.
Wow.
But he was the Army boxing coach up at Main Post, and I hardly ever went up to that area. It's just bizarre how things
Close.
work out, and the similarities, the reoccurring things that pop up in life. So I did some HLC1, Holistic Lifestyle Coach Level 1 and 2. 2 I did with his wife, Angie. And that stuff that was it. I mean, from there, I could have stopped there and my life was just like incrementally more awesome. But I didn't stop there. Through Troy, I heard about Jason Christoff and this thing, called self-sabotage. Like, I started looking into some of Jason's content and I'm like, man, and I'm the kind of guy, I'm pretty hardcore. Like I said, I quit smoking cold turkey after 35 years. I didn't want to just work with Jason. I wanted to learn from a coach's perspective, the whole thing. I didn't want to just be a client. And that's why I did the HLC too. I didn't want to just be somebody that absorbed, as like a client. I wanted to be the coach or the instructor. And that's manifested itself into just kind of I don't really label myself as a coach. I'm just here to help people learn about what organic food is, what health really is, how that can change your life, how we can get back to a point where we're really enjoying ourselves here and giving of ourselves. And that has really helped me, is to be able to help even one other person experience even just a little bit of what I have. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I did write a book, and basically it was just a bunch of my notes from my experiences with food. And that helped out a lot to write these things down and really own them. And then I don't even really, nobody probably even knows that I have that book. I don't promote it or anything. It's just, I probably should. I have it on Amazon. Excuse me. It's called The Quick and Dirty Guide to Nutrition. And I bought a bunch of copies for myself, and I just kind of give them to family and friends. And I say, like, here's a good place to start, you know, because there's a lot of information out there, a lot of books on diet. And we all know that diets they'll work in the short term, but most of them are unsustainable because we're all so different. We're all so individual. And that's what I try to bring to people. Like, you are so special and so individual that you have to take in foods that are specific to you and nobody else. This is the trick. This is one of the keys to the kingdom, is that we have to stay away from this homogenization, whether it's diets, exercise, or whatever. There is no one size fits all. That's, even in clothing, that shit doesn't work. You know, the one size fits all hat, like, you know, okay. So understanding that our experience here, our soul, and this is just my little thing here, there's a long line of souls out there waiting to get here to live this human experience, and there aren't enough of these meat suits to go around. So there's a long line waiting to get here. Your soul chose your parents and the experiences. It doesn't matter how you got here. It doesn't matter. What matters is that soul needs to come here and experience this human experience, this life. The universe wants to experience this so we can move on to the next thing. I think it's important for the soul. It's everything to have this experience here. So knowing that, you know, really dialing in your personal experience here. I've been trained to deal with very high levels of stress. Me and somebody standing next to me ate the same food and went through some of the things that I've been through. We might not digest that food the same way. We might not assimilate all those nutrients the same way, because that stress might liquefy that, and you might end up on the toilet. And stress, like we've all dealt with these things. There's even some cases in the Vietnam War where entire villages, all the women went blind, spontaneous blindness, because the enemy came in, lined up all the men, and slaughtered them in front of the women. And it caused such trauma that they didn't want to see. So they went blind. And the medics, the US Army medics, they couldn't figure out what was going on. And they found out that that's how powerful the body is. We also have spontaneous remission from cancer. You know, just boom, it's gone. So the body's capable of incredible things. If you can get a scab from a cut, you can heal from anything else that this life has to throw at you. Yeah. So, yeah, I could keep going on forever, brother. You got any specific questions for me?
Yeah, I got some questions for you. I was just so interested in hearing your opinion there. It's such an interesting story, and really interesting about the part with the souls and, you know, waiting for your turn in line. I think I've heard that before, and it was really interesting to me. You know, we all chose to be here and to experience, you know, what we've gone through. So everything does, I think, happen for a reason. Like we're meant to experience the things we're supposed to, so we can usually move forward in life. But I think it's like kind of like in your story, how like so many people are just sedating their pain and kind of running away from that yep. lesson they're supposed to be learning. So I had a question, you know, when you were talking about just quitting cold turkey with the cigarettes, what do you think made it so you were able to do that? So I know a lot of people aren't able to quit cold turkey. So like, was it just that like you were just on that edge of precipice and you just like knew that like if you didn't make changes now, like you were gonna, you're gonna be dead soon, or like what do you think allowed you to make that change? Like
I was not going to get into that, but now that you asked, I do not recommend this method for anybody. So I was on vacation in Jamaica with my wife, and like you couldn't smoke cigarettes anywhere in there. There was an area way over in the corner that we go to these all-inclusive resorts. Well, we used to. We don't do that shit anymore.
right.
Because they just serve tons of alcohol. Like you pay for it up front and you just go get as drunk as you want and then eat all kinds of rich food, and you end up coming home feeling like shit.
Yeah.
So, that's not a vacation. Anyway, I spent so much of my time over in that smoking area. My wife came over there and she kind of laid into me, and I had done the same thing at our wedding where I had spent more time outside drinking beer and smoking cigarettes with my buddies instead of dancing with my wife, my new bride. And she came over there and she's like, this is just like our wedding. And it hit me so hard. I said, you know what? Fuck these cigarettes. It's not even worth it, man, to see that and to hear that.
Yep.
I mean, it triggered me, man. I don't recommend that method for anybody, but it worked. So I try to tell people there's no all good or bad in this universe. Nothing is all bad or all good. It's how you deal with that, how you manage that. I know there's a lot of bad things going on with coffee and all that, but there are instances when you can use coffee to get, to facilitate something.
Oh, yeah.
Using it on a regular basis, it's just like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like any other drug. If you're going to use it every day, you might have some issues. But yeah, that's how I quit smoking.
Wow. That's
I
awesome.
don't know. Yeah, it's a strange way to do it, but it worked.
I think for me, it makes total sense from like what I know about the subconscious mind. Like it was something that was so emotional and so like, I'm sure you probably got like that visualization in your head, and I'm sure as well from learning from Jason, like that kind of like emotion and visualization just like impacts our subconscious on such a deep level that it was probably just like, all right, we shouldn't be doing this anymore. Like it's time to move forward and make that change. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that portion of it. It's super
No problem.
Let's see, what other questions did I have? So about the food, I know you're vegan for a while. What made you stop going down the vegan route? I know you were vegan for what you said, 19 months or 18 months.
I didn't do the vegan thing because I would have had to throw away like some really cool leather jackets and that's a little bit hardcore for me. I was a pretty strong vegetarian though.
Yeah,
and
vegetarian.
So what happened was me and the wife were down in Asheville, North Carolina. We were going to Biltmore for a tour of the mansion. And at the time I was using resistance bands so I could travel with them and exercise. And I was in the hotel room and I was getting ready to do some squats. And instead of paying attention to what I was doing, I was listening to my wife. We were talking about planning our day. And I went to go do a rep. I wasn't paying attention. And I went, and I threw my back out. I tweaked a muscle in my back and I was literally on the floor and I couldn't get up. And that was a very painful day because I had bought, whatever it was, $70 tickets to go to this freaking mansion and walk around all day. So that was very difficult, and it wouldn't go away. I rested. We came home. I rested. I did everything I could. I was doing, mustard patches and icy hot and rubbing all kinds of shit on there and, stretching, and it wouldn't heal. So, and this was about the time I was really paying a lot of attention to Paul Chek. And I pretty much watched all of his YouTube stuff, which is like several days worth of material. Mm-hmm. And something, when your antennas are up and you're living kind of clean and this stuff will come to you, you know? And he said in a video, like he was training a young athlete that was going to go to a professional event, had trouble recovering, and his religion, which was Rastafarian, would not allow them to eat animal flesh. And needless to say, the guy never recovered. He was not able to live his dream of entering this huge competition, which would have changed his life.
Wow.
He was unable to do that because of his choices. And Paul was basically like, your body doesn't care about your spiritual or your religion, or that you don't want to kill animals or whatever. Body doesn't care about any of that. It requires certain nutrients to operate. And if you want to operate at a high level, it becomes even more important to dial in these foods. So, you know, did he not realize his dream because he didn't eat meat? I don't know, but it was enough of a story that I started to reintroduce meat, grass-fed and finished, high quality, nutrient-dense meat. And I'm not kidding you, in a week, I was literally pain-free. So that was how I started to eat intuitively and do, you know, you just had a post on the duckbill and muscle testing. And I mean, I'm so good at it now, I'm not even home right now. I'm out here in the trail, and I know what's in my refrigerator. So in my mind, I can stand in front of the refrigerator and go, hey, Steve, what do you really feel like? What does your body need today? And I'm telling you, brother, there are days that I will live on, now I do a power shake, but I add spirulina, cracked cell chlorella, kamut, and rice bran solubles. I make my own concoction, and I'll live on 2 of those a day, and maybe 2 hard-boiled eggs from my chickens, because they're free-range chickens. I feed them human-grade organic food. And I did a 60-mile hike a couple of weeks ago on 2 power shakes and 2 hard-boiled eggs. That's all I had all day. Then there are some days, and I normally intermittent fast. So I'll eat from my windows noon to 6. I only eat 1 big meal. That's it, 1 big meal, maybe some grass-fed steak, some free-range chicken, or I might have some sushi with my wife because she's Japanese, and we'll get some wild-caught fresh tuna, and we eat that raw, of course. I do eat raw elk, raw venison, raw grass-fed beef, not a lot, but occasionally. So my diet, it's something different every minute. 1 minute I'm a vegetarian, and the next minute I'm a carnivore. So, and those are, we talk about the pendulum swing, right? Those are pendulum swing diets. So staying over to one side for too long might not work out for most people. There's a sweet spot in there that belongs to you, only you. And the sooner people figure this out and stop eating all that dead food in the center of the grocery store, you know, that stuff literally removes your life force in order to digest it. So you want food that's living food, that has life force to it. And I suggest to people to look up Paul Chek's prayer about over food. Our ancestors and native cultures always prayed over their food, and we're very grateful and respectful of that life. And that has a lot to do with how your food is digested and assimilated into you. Do you appreciate it, or is it just some dead box of Captain Crunch? You know. So yeah, diet's everything, man. To me.
You know, it's so important for me as well. Like in my journey, it was so important. And no, I ate full organic as well too. But when I started having like the power shakes that you're having as well, like I did notice like a surge in my energy even there. But it's just crazy that for so long I was just eating like everyone else, you know, going out to like Chick-fil-A, going out to McDonald's, like, and then like not even thinking twice about it. Like, what am I actually putting in my body? You know, I always saw like I even saw like examples like of like McDonald's burger like sitting out for like 50 plus years and like not rotting. And I didn't even
Yeah.
care. I was just consuming it anyways because everyone else did it, right? Like obviously it's not that bad if everyone else does it, but everyone else is sick and like getting obese and getting, sick all the time. So wasn't really
Right.
putting those things together. But yeah, it's so important to be eating right. And I think not only for like your health, but like for your mental health, because it's all connected. And then like it leads towards more self-sabotaging like decisions and leads you down that path. But I was going to ask you another question. So I know health was really important for you, and like removing the drugs and things like that and alcohol. How was like your self-talk? How important was that? Like how you talk to yourself? Did you like, I know for like Jason, like we learned a lot about how important it is like what you say to yourself is like, if you tell yourself you're stupid all the time, or you're not good enough, you're not able to do these things, then you're not going to be able to do them. Like we literally like create that blueprint for ourselves when we're speaking. So what was that like for you in your life, and when did that start changing?
Um, honestly, it's hard for me to remember about how I used to talk to myself. All I can, do is kind of recently after I cleaned up and I started getting into the Paul check where it's, I, we, us. And I started doing basically, just a lot of self-care, taking care of myself, the breathing, and you're right with the language. It's, we talk a lot about word magic, and words are swords. Let's take that and flip it around, and we have to be careful with what we speak, because when we think and we speak and we take action, that's what manifests things in our life, whether they're good or bad. So we have to remember, when we speak something, we are creating that vibration goes out and begins to build that, whatever that is. It begins to materialize that. So we have to be very careful of, the universe is always conspiring for us. All it ever says is yes. So if you say, I want, it's going to keep you wanting. If you say, I am, that's an affirmative I am, and it's going to give you that. If it is, I am sick or I am worthless, then that's even more powerful. I am healthy. There are times when I first started this and I walked this trail right here. It's really close to my house, and I would come out here and I would repeat to myself, healing and repair, healing and repair, healing and repair. And I would do this for 5 miles because I was in really bad shape when I first started this trip. And those words were very powerful in my healing, in my daily life. I'm always trying to stay away from I want, I can't, I don't. That's powerful stuff. And we have to have a moment where we can look back and go, I literally created this with my thoughts and my words. If you don't recognize it, you'll never know it. So again, self-discovery. Troy says, all knowledge is knowledge of self, and not just him. This is ancient wisdom. Knowledge of the self, and how what we think, what we say, and the actions we take, how that plays out. Because it's very powerful. Words are very powerful.
Yeah. Even from your story, like you were talking about how, when you were in the military and you were focusing on all the heavy metal bands and like really want to be part of them. And then like 2 years later, you're sitting there as a roadie, like part of them, right? Like you literally manifested that and created that reality for yourself. So I think that's important for all of our listeners to kind of think about as well. Like, what are you manifesting into your life? Like, what are you bringing forward into your life? And, I think a lot of people don't want to do this because then you're like, oh shit, like I've been messing up my own life. Like I'm that person, like, right? Like there's all those memes with self-sabotage where it's like, who's been messing up my whole life? And then they like pull off like little Scooby-Doo mask, and it's them. And it's like, it's me the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, definitely making, and you have HLC1 through the Czech Institute, having a dream, an overarching dream, and having all of your decisions be dream affirmative. And otherwise, everything you do should be towards that dream, and it has to do with your core values. What I put in my body, what I let my eyes see. Okay. I don't do television, man. And my wife watches television all day. We got like an 85,000 inch television on the one wall that we built specifically for this fucking television. I'll literally walk by that thing and be like, I don't want that stuff coming in my eyes, man, or my ears. All of my decisions from when I get up in the morning to the self-care routines that I have, it's all so I can realize my dream. And that makes life very easy, simplifies life. Without a purpose, without a direction, without a dream, anywhere will do, anywhere will do. And I don't want to just be anywhere, man. I got an idea like why I'm put here, my purpose, what kind of legacy I want to leave behind. People don't know what that stuff is. Start looking into it. The dream, purpose, and legacy. Troy's got a lot of free stuff on YouTube or his social media, like thousands and thousands of dollars in free stuff. Just watch it. Or Paul Chek. It's important for people to get busy with this, get busy living your dream. Remember, we have to remember why we're here. We have to remember that we chose to come here and we have a purpose. And once you start working on this stuff, life's going to start changing for the better. And you're going to be sometimes probably quite terrified because you see the power that you have within yourself.
I love that. Makes me think of like the phrase, if you don't change anything, then nothing's going to change. You got to make those changes. If you're going to be watching TV all day, after going to work all day, and then nothing's going to change because you're just doing the same thing over, like repeat, go to sleep, wake up, work all day, go to watch TV, binge watch it. How do you expect your life to get better? How do you expect things to go forward? And really with today's day and age, there's like you said, there's so much free information out there. Like, you can listen to a podcast like this. You can go listen to Paul Chek. You can go listen to Troy Casey. You can go read your book that's on Amazon. There's so many different things you can do. So really, there's no excuse not to be doing it, except for because maybe like people are scared of the change, and that's, I think, a big thing is people are scared of change. They're scared to be different than they once were. They're scared to be different than what they've always known.
Yeah, I'm scared all the time, brother. Not all the time. I mean, I don't live in fear, but
yeah.
It's not really, scared or fearful. I just, if you don't pay attention to this stuff, you're going to slip back into whatever it was you were doing. There's a lot going on in the world right now. And there are times that there is fear in me. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know where these crazy maniacal world leaders or whatever these people think they are. I don't know where they're headed, and there are times that I'm kind of scared, I don't know. Can I protect my wife? Can I protect my family? So, I mean, don't think that you're going to like become enlightened and eat some more organic food and all of a sudden shit's going to get easy and you're not going to have any fear in your life. Like, it's not how it works, And the yin yang symbol, we've got two forces to deal with here, yin and yang, good and evil, wet, dry, fire, ice. So we have to have those stresses in life. Life is like walking on a razor's edge. And there are times that I'm leaning a little bit to the left or I'm leaning a little bit to the right because it's hard to balance on that sucker. You know what I mean? There's only a few people in this world walking that razor's edge, and they're probably living up in the mountains and, Buddhist monk. So, we need that tension, that tension is what keeps us going. Things were easy. Like what would be the point of getting out of bed in the morning?
Good point. Yeah, I love that. Okay, one last question just to finish it off. So, if there's one thing you can let the viewers know, or like you could leave with the viewers to think about, what was the most helpful thing for you, or like what something that you think that they should focus on, or just one thing?
For me, again, the leading a beautiful life, it's every facet of it needs to be changed. Don't just change one thing, change everything. Just change everything, or do it one thing at a time. Find your rhythm. For me, it was food. Once I changed the level, to high vibrational organic foods, that was the building blocks for me. Like, your mind clears up and your antennas go up and they begin to transmit and receive. We're a transceiver. And that's where the beauty is, man. Like, you can just sit there and you can think the good thoughts, speak it into action, take the action, write things down, and you're going to start to see changes in your life. The universe will recognize. It's recognizing you now. I tell people that are overweight or they're not feeling good, you're expressing healing responses. You're never sick. We're never sick. That's a lie. Your body is expressing healing responses. All you got to do is flip the script. The coin has two sides, okay? And the edge of that coin is the potential. So which way do you want that coin to flip when you flip it in the air, And another thing real quick is, sometimes it's better to have a happy donut than a sad salad. So, treat yourself. And it's not really treating yourself, but just don't be afraid to do some of the things that you used to do. If it's going to make you miserable to eat organic food all day, then have a freaking donut. But, get back on track, man. Get back on track. Understand, it's not a treat. I just want a freaking donut. But hey, try to find a good donut. Find some place that makes a good homemade donut. Don't go to Dunkin' and all that other, What's your workaround? Do the best you can and go easy on yourself. Apply the gas when you need to and know when to put the brakes on. So food, people, food is consciousness. Level up on the food and everything else will fall into line.
Awesome. Fantastic. So I'll put your links down below so that people can kind of find you on Facebook, and then other links like that as well. Is there any place they should be looking for you? Is it just mostly Facebook or TikTok? And
I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm on all those. Stevie B. Toth. I think I pretty much have the same name on all of them. Yeah, come on by if you want to hit me up. You got any questions? Maybe I'll get you the link to the book too. I probably should start trying to promote that. It's been out for like a year.
Yeah, I'd be interested in checking it out too, because it sounds like really cool. Sounds like a really good idea. So, awesome. Well,
a lot of
really. Oh, so we're going to say
a lot of it you already know from Paul Check. So a lot of it's just regurgitating that, and but it's all good stuff.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time and coming on and sharing your story. It was really, really interesting. I think it will help a lot of our listeners, just see that, doesn't matter where you've come from or what you've experienced in life. We're all able to overcome that self-sabotage that we encounter. So thank you so again. And remember, guys, food is so important. What are you putting into your body? All right.
Yep. Thanks so much for having me, brother. It was a real pleasure. And I just want everybody out there to know that you may not know me, but I love you and I care about you. And so does Tanner. So join us.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you everyone for listening. Yep. And we all love you all. Thank you.